Hi, welcome. So, you want to make your English sound more natural, right? Like really fluent? Well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to tackle something that can feel a little tricky but is absolutely key for everyday chat: phrasal verbs. And my goal here is to make them easy and maybe even a little fun. Okay, let's jump right in. So, let me start by asking you something. Think about the phrases wake up, give up, and carry on. You've probably heard them like a million times. But what's the one thing that ties them all together? You got it. They're all phrasal verbs. And the reason they sound so familiar is because they're everywhere. It's just how people talk. Once you start listening for them, you'll hear them in movies, in songs, in conversations on the street. They're unavoidable, in the best way. Okay, so first things first, let's build a really solid foundation. What in the world is a phrasal verb anyway? Let's break it down. It's actually way simpler than it sounds. All it is a normal verb, right? But you stick it together with a little word like up, on, or away. That's called a particle. And here's where the magic happens. When you combine them, you get a totally new meaning. It's like a secret code. Let's take a super simple example. The verb look just means, to use your eyes to see something. But add the particle for, and it becomes look for, which means to search. A totally different action. See how that works? Same verb, but a whole new world of meaning. Honestly, the best way to get the hang of these is to see them in action. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to walk through a typical day together and just see how these verbs show up. We'll start right from the moment the alarm clock goes off. Okay, first thing in the morning. You don't just stop sleeping, right? You wake up. Then, maybe after hitting snooze a couple times, you actually get out of bed. You get up. See? They're different. And before you head out, you might clean up your breakfast mess. We've got 3 phrasal verbs, and you haven't even had your coffee yet. All right, time to get dressed. You put on your clothes. And what do you do at the end of the day? You take off your clothes. They're perfect opposites. Thinking of them in pairs like this can really make them stick in your brain. Same idea for all our gadgets and electronics. You turn on the TV, you turn off the lights. It just sounds so much more natural than saying, activate the television, doesn't it? These are pretty much essential for just living in the modern world. Okay, you're awake, you're dressed, you're ready to face the day. The minute you step outside, your day is going to be filled with talking to people, and you guessed it, there are a ton of phrasal verbs for that too. For example, when you see someone you know completely by surprise, you don't just say you met them, you'd say you ran into them. It just perfectly captures that feeling of a random, unexpected meeting. Like, you won't believe who I ran into at the grocery store. And what about your relationships with people? If you have a really good, easygoing vibe with someone, you get along with them. It's that perfect phrase for describing a smooth, friendly connection with your coworkers, your family, or your friends. Oh, this one is huge. We use it all day, every day. If you miss a call, what do? You call them back. It's so simple, so direct. Hey, I'm busy, can I call you back? Is probably one of the most common sentences in English. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. A day isn't just about doing things and talking to people. It's also about what happens in our heads. Thinking, solving problems, dreaming up ideas. And yep, there are phrasal verbs for all that brain work. When you're stuck on a tricky problem or trying to understand something new, what you're trying to do is figure it out. This verb is so incredibly useful. It's not just for math homework. You can figure out a new gadget, figure out a strange situation, or even try to figure out what someone is thinking. Now this is the phrasal verb for pure creation. You don't just think of an idea, you come up with an idea. It has this feeling of invention, of bringing something totally new to the table. It's perfect for brainstorming. Okay, now here's a little curveball. Sometimes one phrasal verb can have a couple of different meanings. A great example is make up. On one hand, it can mean to invent a story, like making up an excuse. But it can also mean to forgive someone and be friends again after an argument. Context is everything here, which is why listening is so important. And finally, our day is coming to an end. As we start to wind down, we've got a whole new set of phrasal verbs for finishing our work, getting things in order, and just relaxing. At the end of the day, you might be tidying up your space. When you get rid of garbage or stuff you just don't need anymore, you throw it away. It's super simple and direct. By the way, you might also hear people say throw out. It means the exact same thing. And here is the perfect one to finish with. When you're ready to bring something to an end, a project, a conversation, a meeting, you wrap it up. Kind of like how we're about to wrap up the main part of this whole explainer. It just means, let's finish this. So what's the secret to actually getting good at this? Well, it's not about memorizing long lists from a textbook. I can tell you that. It's about paying attention. Listen for them in movies. Spot them when you're reading. And the biggest thing? Just try to use them. Start small with the ones we talked about today and just build from there. I want to leave you with this one final thought. And it just happens to use one of the most powerful phrasal verbs there is. Whatever you're trying to achieve, whether it's learning English or something else entirely, just remember this. Don't give up. And with that, I have one last question for you. Of all the phrasal verbs we just went over, which one are you going to try to use today? Because actually using it, even just once, is the best way to start. Thanks so much for joining me.